Hello, my beautiful friends. I am Laurel Bleadon-Maffei with Illuminating Souls, welcoming you to this episode of Sleepy Bedtime Blessings, a podcast designed to help you rest, relax, and fall asleep, all while deepening in your connection with your beautiful team of angels who love you so. If we're meeting for the first time, I am an angelic practitioner, a spiritual teacher, and an encourager of souls. And I do this through one-on-one angel sessions, soul mentoring, and a variety of classes designed to inspire your spirit. And you can learn more about this at my website, illuminatingsouls.com. But for now, the angels and I are here to help you come into a beautiful expanse of rest. This podcast is an unlikely mashup of two of my favorite forms of self-care, the angels, and coming into loving sanctuary with them. It always helps me find my center and my balance, and I hope it does this for you as well. And also sleep podcasts, which I listen to every night before I go to bed. So when I was guided to create my own sleep podcast, I knew I wanted to include bedtime stories and storytelling as a big component of it because that's what I love. I know that I'm known for bringing forth messages from the angels and guided meditations and all that good stuff. But from a creative perspective, I wasn't in love with the idea of doing 2 episodes a week of just the angels. And so I decided to do a blend, about 15 to 20 minutes with the angels, and then the rest of the episode is a bedtime story. So hopefully I have a little bit of everything that you're seeking in this episode. And for right now, I invite you to get comfortable in your body. Whatever that means. Our bodies are awesome, They just do their thing. And for most of our lives, we don't have to pay constant attention to them. So in this moment, I invite you to take a nice deep breath in, allowing ripples of angel love to move through your body. This beautiful body of yours, even if at times you have a hard time connecting with its beauty in this moment, we acknowledge the beauty of your body temple because it allows you to be here. So just take a deep breath in, allowing waves of love and relaxation to flow to your body, allowing your nervous system to just relax, that you have done enough for this day. And rest is such a remarkable thing. I think about the great mystery of sleep. That somehow, innately, our systems know how to go into this place of rest, even if you're not sound asleep, right? It's like everything just sighs. And so this is your time. As I've shared with you before, bedtime is one of my favorite times of the day. I have a lovely, beautiful waking life. I like being awake too. I don't want you to think that I'm just all about bedtime. But I am someone who loves comfort. I love cozy things. I love fluffy beds. Right? I love tactile, awesome, comforting experiences. And I think it's one of the reasons I love bedtime so much. My husband and I have an amazing bed. Can I wax poetic about our bed for a moment? We have a Tempur-Pedic mattress, and that was a game changer. I'd always had inner spring mattresses before that, and I don't know, about 7 years ago, we got a Tempur-Pedic, and oh my God, it's like a cloud. It's awesome. And so when I get to crawl into it at the end of the day, and the mattress supports my body perfectly, it's like my body and that mattress, they are good friends. I get into the bed, and the mattress says to my body, we got you. You go ahead. You chill. You have done your battle with gravity for the day. We're going to take good care of you for the next 8 hours. And my body says, that's awesome. Thank you. And I fluff up my pillows just so. I pull up the blankets, one of which is a huge fluffy comforter. And I put in my earbuds and I pick a podcast episode to listen to. And just so you know, I do listen to my own podcast as a sleep podcast, and it really works for me. So it's like a baker who samples their own wares. I listen to my own podcast, and I think, that's really good. I really fell asleep. So I support you in cultivating your own relationship with this podcast. And here's what I mean by that. You may find you like listening to it during the day. It may be the perfect companion for you in the daytime and helps you find your center. You may listen to it when you try to nap. You may like being wide awake for the podcast. You just really like the companionship, and my stories are entertaining, and that's okay too. And if you're using it as a sleep podcast, you may need to give it a bit of time. Maybe a few nights, maybe a week. But at some point, my hope is your consciousness will begin to build a relationship with this broadcast. That when you hear the opening, which is almost always the same, where I say, hello friends, I welcome you to this episode of Sleepy Bedtime Blessings. It will become a sign for your consciousness, like, okay, it's good. I can get ready for sleep. And each episode's an hour long, so you'll know you have plenty of time. And so I invite you to build your relationship with this broadcast. I'm going to be doing this for a long time to come because it's one of my absolute favorite things. I'm so grateful that you're listening. It's such a blessing to get to be here with you in the love. And there is so much love here for you. I might be the voice of the broadcast, but I need to tell you there is a beautiful divine team that is here with me as well, bringing you love. So I get to be the earth angel representation of the divine angelic team. Doesn't mean I'm angelic all the time. For sure I am not, but you understand, right? I am the voice of the podcast, and the vibrational team is here too. Isn't that awesome? I love acknowledging that we dwell in a universe that is filled with love for each one of us. That is filled with love for you. Let's get really specific. That you, my friend, you are a beloved of this universe. Oh, my whole heart smiles open as I say that, and I feel the love. You are a miracle from on high. And you have the invitation of the angels to lay your burdens down, to clear your fears. You know, as I mentioned to you in the last broadcast, I just finished a 4-day certification training with Mike Dooley for his Infinite Possibilities class, and he said something about fears that just delighted me. It might sound weird to sound delighted by fears. And as he was talking about fears, he asked a question in this way. He says, "What are your lions, tigers, and bears?" And I don't know why that just has delighted me. That's something I'm going to continue asking for a long time to come, because for me it helps shift the fears I feel into the lions, tigers, and bears. Oh my, right? It helps make them more characters in the play of my life rather than these substantial hurdles I need to somehow get through. So how about if we give our lions, tigers, and bears over to the angels, and they can have a sleepover on the angelic realm where they will be turned into kitty cats and puppy dogs and aspects of life we can love and blossom into beautiful gifts of light. And you know, I just realized I have not called the angels in, even though they are already here. I know that you know that, yes, but let's call them in, because I love that part. You know, one day I hope you get to have a podcast where you get to include all your favorite things too, because this is one of my favorite things. I love praying. I love getting to use my voice to reach up to the heavens and ask for the love to come flying, soaring, flowing in. Let's do that together now. So take a deep breath in. That's what I always do. It's like that deep breath in. That's right. Let's center into the heart of God. And beautiful angels on high. I acknowledge that you are already here. I feel your love pouring in for each of our beloveds here and now. And angels, I ask that you infuse this broadcast with so much love, with healing, with light, and with inspiration for each of our gorgeous, beautiful beloveds listening. Angels, I ask that you help to lift our burdens, because what feels heavy to us may be light as a feather to you. I ask that you infuse inspiration into our sleep time, into our dreams, though, that we may awaken refreshed, feeling more ourselves than ever before. So, dear ones, just take a nice deep breath in as the angels infuse the space that you are in with a beautiful, soft, pink light that represents the love of God. This love helps bring healing to everything it touches, and this love can ripple far beyond the space you're in. So if you would like this love to flow to people who are in your heart, to your animals, to situations, just ask the angels to expand it. You know, you can put anything into this light. You can put your job into the light. You can put a loved one into the light. This light can flow anywhere and everywhere. And you don't have to use your own energy for it. The angels will do it on your behalf. So instead of feeling like you have to list off everyone, you can try this. Send this light to everyone and everything that you love. And just ask the angels to do this. Angels, send this love to everyone and everything that I love. And then, angels, I ask that you send this love to everyone and everything that loves me. Right? So we're starting this beautiful flow of love. And then you can say, an angel, send this love to everything that exists in my life and beyond. And this love will begin rippling around the world. And just breathe. Let this love flow with the generosity of sunlight. Yes? How on a bright sunny day the sun touches everything. There's more than enough sun to go around. You don't have to be judicious in how you use sunlight. Sunlight exists. The oak tree soaks it into its leaves. Your cat or your dog may find that perfect shaft of sunlight on the floor and take their nap there. It exists, and it is available to all. And how could God's love be any less than that? So as you rest, you soak up God's love. You just soak it up and let it flow to you. Let it inform you. Let it rest within you, because you are an expression of God's love. So as this love flows to you, it helps you remember who you are. You are born of the breath of God that is you. And you are remarkable. You are precious. You are magical. And you are an on purpose from God. And I'm so deeply grateful for the opportunity to share this love with you tonight. So my friend, you just cozy on up and snuggle on in. let your angels do the heavy lifting. And give yourself permission to rest and drift off into the beautiful land of sweet dreams. And while you do, I'm going to tell you a story. So the story I'm guided to share with you tonight is one from my own life. On the surface, it's going to sound like it's about a piece of furniture, but it's really about so much more than that, that my journey with this piece of furniture represents so many different phases of my life. And so, let's see where this takes us. So, there's a dresser in our bedroom that I purchased when I lived in New York. All of this will be unfolded in my story for you. And the story became really clear to me one morning a few months ago. So let me describe this dresser to you. It's an antique dresser, not a super valuable antique, but more like grandma furniture that you might find in an antique store. Right? It's been well traveled, well loved. It's about 4 feet high. And at the top of it, there are 2 narrow drawers sitting next to each other where I keep my knickknacks and scarves and, necklace or something like that. And then there are 3 drawers, one on top of each other. And to get to the drawers, you have to open 2 cupboard doors. So there are these 2 doors that close in front of the 3 drawers that are stacked on top of each other. And then below that is a taller drawer that is just on its own. On the doors that cover the drawers, there is like a flower decal. It's a dark wood dresser, and I don't know, it was probably made in somewhere around 1920, I think. So the flowers aren't bright, they're very faded. And I remember when I first saw it, I fell in love with it. But I'm going to get to that part of the story in a minute. But because it's an old piece of furniture and well-traveled and well-loved, the doors don't always close right. The drawers have to be pushed in just so, which sometimes they're not keen on doing. Because if the drawers are poking out at all, the doors won't close. So this was the portal to my story that I'm going to share with you. So a few months ago, in the morning, part of our morning ritual is usually my husband gets ready before I get out of bed. Our house is rather small. Our bedroom is even smaller, and we have 1 bathroom, so I usually hang out in bed while he gets ready for the morning. And then when he's done, I get up. So as he was getting ready, he went into the dresser to get some of his clothes. And the cupboard doors were not closing right. And it can be frustrating, I think both of us at some point have tried to, violently shake the drawers and close the door. It's one of those pieces of furniture that sometimes sticks because it's old. But that morning, my husband very, very gently repositioned the drawers and then very gently and quietly closed the doors. It was that tenderness, that sweetness with which he tended to this dresser that all of a sudden ignited this time travel realization for me about this dresser. That moment when he took good care of it that morning, a completely ordinary act, right? There's nothing special about that part of the story. I mean, maybe it is, but it's something we do 1,000 times a day, right? And all the years we've been together, he's gone in and out of that dresser many, many times. But there was something about the way that he gently got it resituated so that the doors would close, that it's almost like I felt this portal of light opening up to show me the beauty of my journey of the past almost 30 years. So let me now go back a ways and share with you how I came to meet this dresser. For those of you outside of the US, you may have a different word for dresser. It's a chest of drawers. That could be another way to describe it. So if you're trying to understand what I am sharing about, it's a chest of drawers where you would store clothes. So at the end of 1993, I lost my job. I got laid off. I guess I can share with you a little bit about that story. I had been working for a home video distribution company. For those of you who've been listening to my podcast, that's when I had worked for Michael Nesmith's company, Pacific Arts. What's interesting about when I got laid off is I had been condo shopping. It was time for me to buy a condo. And I had found this condo. It was the smallest, honestly, the teeniest property I could afford. It was a condo in West Hollywood on Kings Road. I think it was something like 450 square feet. Now, I know in other parts of the world, many people live in places that small, but here in the US, that's really exceptionally small. And I think it was going to be $89,000. So this would have been 1993. And I was just scraping by to be able to afford it. But I was excited. And the company had come into some financial challenges, but at the time I wasn't worried about losing my job. And on the day that I was supposed to be signing for the condo, I got into work. And in the morning, a friend of mine walks past my office and she says, "I just got laid off." And I was like, oh no. And I swore, which I will not swear here. I was like, shoot. Oh my God. I bet that I'm on the block too. Like if she's getting laid off, I wonder if I am too. And I just kind of had this sense that maybe I would get laid off that day. Maybe I would get laid off, 3 weeks later. But I was about to sign on a condo. And so I went into my boss's office and he just looked awful. Like he just, he clearly had been involved in these meetings. And he said, "This is not a good time." I said, "I get it." I said, "But I need to tell you something. At 2 p.m., I'm supposed to go sign on a condo. And if I'm going to be getting laid off, I need you to tell me before 2 o'clock. Because if I am, I'm not going to sign those papers." And he said, "Okay." And I went back to my office. And about 2 hours later, I got called into the president's office. And he said, we're going to have to lay you off. I said, okay, thank you. I had been hoarding vacation time like a hamster hoards seed and wondering if I might lose my job. It was 2 weeks before Christmas. And on my way back to my office, my friends were stopping me to want to comfort me and talk to me. And I said, I can't do this right now. And I went to the phone and I called up this contact that I had with another market research company in the entertainment industry. And I called her up and I said, you're my first phone call. I need to tell you I'm on the market. I'm available. I just got laid off. And she said, okay, thanks. Let me see what I can do. And then my friend and I, the one who had told me in the morning that she'd gotten laid off, we went out, we got a beer, and we got this delicious Southern food, and we filed for unemployment. So that was 2 weeks before Christmas. And then we'll fast forward 3 weeks to Martin Luther King Day, and the huge Northridge earthquake happens. So a lot of upheaval is taking place in this time. And I'm dealing with a lot of fear, right? Not only is the earth moving, I've lost my job, I have to find another one. And I was hustling. So the woman who I'd called, who worked for a market research company, that wound up bearing fruit. And I went through a series of interviews, and I was interviewing with them as well as a division of Turner Entertainment in Atlanta. So when all was said and done, I got 2 job offers, one in Atlanta and one in New York with this market research company. And when I say New York, I'm not talking about super cool Manhattan, New York. It was in Westchester County, which is north of the city. It was for a lot of money. So a lot to me, it was a lot of money, more money than I had ever made before. But I would need to move. I would need to leave Los Angeles. And at that time, I had felt so much trauma from the earthquake that I thought, yeah, I don't know that I want to live here anymore. Let's go. And so I packed up my dog. I had to ship her ahead of time. I had to pack up my things and hire movers. And I had to find my way to New York. The company that I worked with was in Hartsdale, which is in the White Plains area. And I thought, I had never been there, actually. Let me back up. I had never been there. But I figured Hartsdale was like a suburb of New York, the way Skokie or Northbrook would be a suburb of Chicago. I had grown up in the suburbs, and I liked the suburbs, so I thought that's what I was getting into. But it wasn't like that at all. My experience of Westchester County, so this again would be back in 1994, it was much more rural than the suburbs of Chicago. I remember flying into White Plains Airport, which had not been redeveloped at that time. And it was very small. And a friend of mine had been traveling to Connecticut on business, and so she met me there. Thank God for her, my friend Kirsten. And it was like some guy handed me my luggage. He's like, which one is yours? I said, the burgundy one. He's like, okay, and he handed it to me. And as we're driving from White Plains, we were going to stay in a hotel in Tarrytown. There were no lights on. Everything was dark. And I started freaking out a little bit. I was like, Kirsten, what have I done? Oh my God, what's happening here? And we checked into the hotel, and I'd arranged to have a realtor show me around to help me find apartments. I had shared with you in another episode how when I lived in Los Angeles, my cousin Susie and I would drive up and down the streets looking for rent signs to figure out where we wanted to live, but I didn't know this area, so I was working with a realtor. And the realtor started showing me apartments that I definitely did not want to live in. There were a couple of basement apartments that had indoor-outdoor AstroTurf as carpeting. And I started panicking. I was like, I can't live here. Oh my God. And I think the next day, Kirsten had to leave to go back to Los Angeles, so I was on my own, and the realtor said, I might have one other option for you. She said, someone else was going to rent it, but they had a really bad experience with the tenant's boyfriend, and they don't want to live there now. And it was this really lovely 3-story house, and each story was its own apartment. So there was an attic apartment, a second-floor apartment, and a first-floor apartment. And I was looking at the first-floor apartment. It was rather big. It had 2 bedrooms, and I'm going to say almost a 3rd bedroom, but it really was more like a bonus room, a porch that had been repurposed into another room, and 2 bathrooms. And the rent was really more than I was planning on spending. And what had happened is another couple had been shown the apartment a few hours earlier than me. And the tenant's boyfriend, I guess, had threatened them. And they said, no, I don't want to live here. I don't know why that had anything to do with it, but that's what had happened. And so I looked at the place and I looked at my realtor. I said, I want it. I'll write the check right now. Sign me up. And while I was sitting in the realtor's office, the couple called and said, we want it. And she said, it's too late. We just took a check. We have somebody else. And so I got this apartment, which was the first floor of a house in Tarrytown, right off of Main Street. So Tarrytown is a very, very sweet, sleepy town. Very charming. I don't know that Tarrytown is a great place to move, though, if you're single and you don't know anybody. There's not a lot of opportunity for socializing and making new friends, at least at the time. Remember, this is before the internet. AOL was just starting to be a thing. And I would sometimes walk 4 blocks up to 7-Eleven, which was this old-fashioned 7-Eleven, because it had to keep with the architecture of historic Tarrytown. And also on Main Street was an antique store, because of course there was, right? This is a historic town. And that is where I met my dresser. One day, I had wandered through there, as I had many times before, and this dresser was there. I think there was a companion piece, maybe a longer dresser as well, but this one I was enchanted by, because it had the doors that closed over the drawers, and I thought that was so cool. And it was $75, which was cheap even back then. And so I bought it. And it was kind of messed up. So there was like a furniture refinisher up the block. And he said he would fix it up for me for about $40. And the thing was, I didn't want to spend money to get it delivered a block up. And so I have this recollection that somehow my friends who might have been visiting, I don't remember who it was, but somehow we carried this thing up a block to the woodworker. And about a week later, after the woodworker had done his thing, I had to get it 2 more blocks up to my house. It has these little wheels on the legs, these little wooden casters, which are not meant to go on concrete for 2 blocks, but I seem to recall that a friend of mine helped me carry/push it up the 2 blocks and up the 6 stairs into my house. And that's how I came to meet this dresser. So I came to really love this dresser. But I was very unhappy living in New York. I really missed my friends. I missed my life. I missed the weather. I missed the vibration, the inspiration that came with Los Angeles. I had promised the marketing company that I had gone to work with that I would stay for a year to help them start a new division that I was working for. And I told them about 4 months before my year was up, I said, listen, I love working for you. I am really homesick. And when the year is up, I'm going to move back to Los Angeles. And I wanted to give you plenty of notice because I don't want you to be left high and dry. I believe in what we're doing. I want to participate in it. But for my own well-being, I have to go back to LA. And they were really grateful that I had given them a heads up, and I wound up staying a few months longer than that first year. And they were so grateful, they wound up keeping me on as a consultant and helping to pay part of my moving expense back to LA. And when I went back to Los Angeles, the dresser moved back with me, as well as my dog, of course, and my furniture. And if you listened to the episode about unexpected family, and I shared with you when my cousin had helped me find the 2-bedroom apartment with my dog, not the duplex that we had lived in, but the place that I moved into after I returned from New York. That's the apartment we're now in the story. So I found this really unremarkable 2-bedroom apartment in Los Angeles, but the things that mattered to me was it was in the neighborhood that I wanted. They would take my dog, and it was in my budget. I remember the day we found that apartment. It was very unattractive. The front was like covered with this, 60s pool tile and a very ordinary, unremarkable apartment. And my cousin insisted that we look at it. I was like, it's too ugly. I don't want to look at it. And it was a long day and we were tired, and we looked at it, and I looked at her. I said, I guess it'll work. And I said yes, and I submitted my application, and we got mani-pedis. I was like, I'm done. That's it. Those decisions that you make when you're so exhausted and hot and something you just have to be done with the process. And so that's when I got that apartment, and a few weeks later, all of my stuff moved in, including the dresser. And the dresser sat sort of in a corner of my bedroom. I had a big king-size bed in there, and I had sort of positioned the dresser kind of catty corner to the bed. And so by this point, I had had a really difficult 18 months, and I hadn't been very happy. I was really hoping I would feel happier being back in Los Angeles, but life was still pretty challenging. I didn't have a full-time job at that point, and I was consulting for 2 different companies, and to be honest, I was terrible at consulting. I'm not built for that kind of work, and I was in a constant state of fear and anxiousness. And eventually I would get hired back on by the marketing company in a different capacity, and that's where I remained until I opened Illuminating Souls. So the dresser was with me all of that time, and here's my next big memory of it. was in 2000 was when I found my way back to USM. So I got laid off my job with Pacific Arts at the end of 93. And pretty much from that point, all the way through 2000, it was just hard for me. It's not that life was horrible, but I was not happy. I had friends that made me happy. I had my dog. I had my health. It's not that life was horrible, but I definitely didn't feel comfortable in my own skin. I didn't feel in my groove. I had no idea what my purpose was. I was struggling with my life. And that's what drew me to USM in fall of 2000. So during that time, I had this ritual. Every morning after I got out of the shower, I would lay down on my bedroom floor, which was carpeted. I don't know why that's important, but I will put that in there. And under this dresser, because this dresser sits up about a foot off the floor, there's these 4 legs to the dresser, but the dresser is up off the ground. And I kept this really pretty box that I had painted by hand. I kept my journals and my markers in there. And so every morning, like clockwork, I would lay down on the floor after getting out of the shower, and my dog Tessa would lay down next to me, and I would pull my markers and my journals from underneath the dresser, and I would write my heart out. I would cry, I would pray, I would journal, I would draw a card from the Osho Zen Tarot deck because I didn't know about angel cards at that point, and I would commune with my heart and with the angels and with God. So my memories of that time, especially those mornings, involved the dresser because that's where I stored my treasures that I would use to help me connect with my soul and God and the angels. So life starts getting better. I start healing and I start awakening to who I am. I graduate from USM. I start contemplating what comes next. And a lot of life happens. That's a story for another day. But in 2005, Wes enters my life. And there was this beautiful moment at one point in our relationship where I cleared out a drawer of the dresser for him. You know that point in a relationship where someone gets a drawer? Well, that drawer was in the dresser. He also got part of a nightstand, but I don't have an emotional attachment to the nightstand. This is about the dresser. He got a drawer in the dresser. And that was a beautiful moment. Like I had waited my whole life to give someone a drawer, right? So that someone was drawer worthy. And as our life has progressed, he has upscaled to 2 drawers in that dresser. And so that dresser now is in our bedroom. The TV's on top of it, and the clock that tells us what time it is, and a beautiful crystal, and a sweet little glass dish that was my mother's. And treasures of my heart are in the drawers, as well as utilitarian things. And so that morning, a few months ago, when my husband so gently adjusted the drawers so that the doors would close, this whole stream of energy, this whole whoosh along the timeline of my life flooded into me. And I saw myself feeling so alone in Tarrytown. I saw myself finding the dresser in the antique store and finding a way to get it up the street and then get it into my apartment. I felt how lonely and alone I felt back then. And it was almost like I could send this whoosh of love back to myself, back to the me that I was in that moment. And I could say to her, honey, it's gonna be okay. I promise. You are gonna meet the most wonderful man. You're gonna get to go back to LA. And he's gonna keep his things in one of the drawers. You're going to live happily ever after. It's going to be okay. You just need to get through this part. And it was one of those moments, you know, how they say that time isn't always linear, that things all can exist at the same time. It's almost like I felt the invitation to bring this love to the me sitting in that moment of time, feeling so lost, trying to find my way. But I knew I loved the dresser. Like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't know that I like living here, but I love this dresser. It's beautiful. And I'm going to get it. And I'm going to take good care of it. And it's going to take good care of me. And I took a breath and I just whooshed this love all across the timeline from that moment into this moment. And now my life is different. I have a beautiful husband, a beautiful hearted man whose belongings also dwell in my dresser and in my heart. And he takes good care of it, and he takes good care of me. And life blossoms open. My life blossomed open, you guys. And I was just filled with so much gratitude and love. Listen, we all go through times when it feels like I don't know what I'm doing here. It's one of the reasons that I always say life has a way of blossoming open, because mine did. And if that happened for me, it happens for you too, right? I believe that if life blossoms open for me, life blossoms open for you too. Maybe in a different way. And if you have a dream of sharing your dresser, your chest of drawers with your beloved, and it hasn't happened yet, I affirm it will. I don't know how and I don't know when, but I affirm that your dreams are percolating in the heart of God, in the heart of a beautiful universe that loves you so. So take a deep breath in and affirm with me that this is true, that love is flowing to you in known and unknown ways, that you are on a beautiful path in your life, and miracles are flowing to you. We always think miracles have to be these big things, right? I'll tell you that moment a few months ago, witnessing my husband gently closing the doors of the dresser, that was a miracle for me. It was a miracle I could have easily missed because it was an everyday occurrence. But to the me back in Tarrytown, living my way to the moment a few months ago was a bona fide miracle dream come true. Someone would have sat me down and said, honey, you get to marry your best friend. He's going to be your favorite person on the planet, and you're going to have a happy life together. I would have sobbed and said that would be a miracle. Miracles come in all shapes and sizes. And there are miracles for you that you have yet to live your way into. So just remember that they are happening. They are taking place. You are moving into joyful reunion with the dreams of your heart. Because if it's true for me, it's true for you too. I don't think it's true for me just because I'm super special. I think I'm pretty special, but you know what? I think you are too. So my sweet, beautiful beloved, I say a prayer for the dreams of your heart. May your miracles arrive at your doorstep in a way that delights you. So I invite you to take a deep breath in and let it go. And know that the angels know your heart. They know your truth. And the universe is conspiring for your happiness and your success. I send you love. I send you dreams come true. I send you blessings, and I send you miracles of light. So you sleep well, my beloveds. And give thanks for your furniture, the stories in your dressers or your tables or your couches that have taken good care of you over the years. And know that your angels are taking good care of you. We'll talk again soon. I love you. Good night.